see all of you here this morning. That you made it through the time change once again. Perhaps lost an hour of sleep in the process, or maybe like I did, went to bed extra early so I wouldn't notice it so much. I'm grateful for the time changes, both times of year. Not only is it a time when we change our clocks, we also change out the filters on our drinking water system, as well as the filters in our furnace, and do other semi-annual maintenance tasks. It's also an opportunity to reassess where I am in life. What still needs to be done? What has been accomplished in the previous 6 months? Things like that. And more importantly, to look at what areas of life am I ready to spring forward? What old or new objective, goal, or priority has captured my attention, stirred the creative juices, and given me a little bit of an adrenaline to energize me enough to move into greater action? What does it take for you to spring forward into a greater and more expressive life? More of you. Maybe it has something to do with new educational goals. Perhaps you want to accomplish more financial freedom. Is it time to revamp your career? Take on new tasks or make a change? Do something to your house? What if you did just one thing differently in your closest relationship to spice up your intimacy? These are just a few examples of the possibilities that exist for you and me, and not just in March, but every day. We can spring forward in consciousness, in attitude, in action, in whatever area we choose to place our attention. For a few more weeks, at this time of year, is part of the Christian religion's season of Lent, L-E-N-T, lasting for 40 days. We're partway through that now. It's a man-created institution and practice starting about 100 years after the life of Jesus. It begins on Ash Wednesday, around mid-February this year, and ends the day before Easter, which is coming up on April 4th. In the Christian faith, Lent is a time of preparation to honor and recognize the death of Jesus on Good Friday and the resurrection 3 days later. Traditionally, Lent is a time of giving up something, releasing a negative behavior pattern, food, a habit, or belief. Lent is typically observed as a time of simple living, prayer, and fasting. Since my childhood religion was one of those Christian traditions, I remember well the season of Lent and trying to give up something during that time. When I was young, it was usually sugar. As I got older, it became things like swearing or coffee. I don't remember how successful I was in every instance, but I do remember it sometimes was a challenge to get through the 40 days and give that up. Like many experiences, when you've given up or relinquished something for what seems like a long period of time, just to see if you can do it, or perhaps because it's good for your health, after that period is over, there may be an inclination to reclaim that habit or desired food you gave up all those weeks before. Or you could spring forward into a new pattern of living and thinking and continue to leave it behind. That period of going without or fasting can be viewed as a kind of a cleansing period rather than a time of negative restriction or loss. Thus, when you come out on the other side, there's actually a sense of accomplishment and freedom for having experienced that release. You can feel a sense of lightness in your being. You're successful, right? And it's very common to reward or treat yourself with some kind of object or reward of some kind. That happens a lot. It happened in biblical times as well. Moses, Elijah, and Jesus set a precedent for it. In the Bible, it's recorded that each observed a 40-day period of prayer and fasting as a preparation of spiritual work they were about to do or had done. Moses received the 10 Commandments on Mount Sinai at the conclusion of his fast. Elijah talked with God on Mount Horeb at the conclusion of his period of prayer and fasting, while Jesus began his great spiritual ministry at the close of his fast in the wilderness. So if you and I were to finish out this year's Lent period between now and Easter, what would you willingly release for that time? It only needs to be one thing, and something you can let go of, that in doing so would actually be better for you if you did. One idea we did at this church years ago, and that is also taught by many spiritual teachers, is to give up complaining. No complaining was the goal for 21 days. And if you do complain, well, you get to start over again until you make it all the way through 21 days without one complaint. What I've noticed is that when people get close to day 21, and all along the way for that matter, they either don't talk or they get really creative about how not to complain, how to change their words and their tones so it does not sound like a complaining statement. It's especially effective to keep you in check if you tell your family and friends what you're doing. They're sure to help you out and point out what sounds like complaining to them. I highly recommend the process. There's a story that during the Lent season one year, a family visited a friend's church. As this friend was pointing out the beauty of the stained glass windows, all eyes were drawn to a large wooden cross to the right of the altar, to which dozens of pieces of paper had been attached. The parishioners, the friend explained, had written down what they hoped to give up for Lent and had placed them there as a weekly reminder. The visiting family and their friend all smiled in understanding when they saw that at the very top of the cross, someone had placed their obviously overused credit card. If you started today, prayed, meditated, and fasted for the next 28 days, there's only 28 days before Easter, parents. What change would you see in yourself? What would you be ready to receive at the end of those 28 days? That's something to look forward to. It could be a surprise about how easy it was to give up some negative habit, or to attract into your life something you've been intending to create. Wouldn't it be interesting to see what showed up? Think about it. And if you're willing to try this fasting, praying, meditating, no complaining Lent experiment, let me know. I'll support you in your decision and lovingly cheer you on for the next 4 weeks, just as I hope you will me. When we bring this idea of Lent into new thought perspective and look at it from the science of mind viewpoint, rather than saying we're giving up something, we can talk about releasing whatever it is that no longer serves us. We do that every month when we have Celebration Sunday. Such as a habit we no longer want to do, an unfulfilling job perhaps, a resentment towards someone, or a few pounds and bad eating habits. We can say it's a way of opening ourselves up to our higher good, standing more firmly in the abundant flow of life. When we look at this idea from a positive perspective, we can do so not as lack, but as making room in our lives for the abundance and good that's all around us. And that's true about anything, isn't it? It's all in our perspective at any given moment and for any situation. Our human thinking is what places labels on experiences and situations and ideas as being either good or bad. It's our oftentimes limited vocabulary that determines something is positive or negative. And as we communicate and try to understand one another, or even as we try to understand our own nature and commune with our God self, the spiritual side of ourselves, those judgments have a tendency to creep in. If you're going to spring forward into a new phase of life, or a special project, or an inviting relationship of some kind, do it with a strong connection to divine mind. Get into that creative and powerful flow of life, knowing you are securely tethered with the faith of God. That you know, that you know, that you know. And nothing can sway you from your intention. For example, when a dandelion starts pushing its head up through the grass, does it think, even for a microsecond, that it's going to fail and it should stop its growth? Of course not. And those weeds will soon start growing in our gardens and concrete cracks in our flower beds, won't they? They don't doubt for a minute that their job is to grow and live and thrive and flourish for as long as they can, until someone pulls them out or sprays them with weed kill. They just grow. And if you have weeds like mine, their roots are deep, and their seeds are plentiful, and they'll be back next year. I have no doubt about that. They'll be back. We can do the same thing. Don't put doubts in your way. Don't put your life on hold based on a fear that something might happen before you even try or succeed. When you make a decision, however long that takes, when you make a decision that is finally true for yourself, that lights up your inner core with joy and enthusiasm, that more fully allows you to express who you are, then do it. Take the steps to pursue your dreams and your goals, your true calling. Stay connected to your God source every step of the way. Pray, meditate, fast, release, repeat. Whatever is holding you back from the highest expression of who you are, stop that. Just let it go. And do your life with love. Through all these steps, through all the changes and the decisions and the plans, as you spring forward into the next moment or beingness of your life, of you, of your highest self, remember to be love in every moment as well. That can be the big task, to be love in every moment. Frankly, what I've found to be true, unless you do it with love, with God as your source and your direction, with absolute belief for the greatest good of who you are and what you're endeavoring to accomplish, unless you do it from love, as love, whatever creation you can conceive will not last. It may not even manifest to its fullest possibility. Here are a few words from Ernest Holmes about this creative process and the flow of spirit through us. He said, "The objective mind alone may consciously decide what is to happen. All subjective decisions, meaning automatic in this case, all subjective decisions are merely conclusions built on already accepted premises, ideas, or thought patterns. The conscious mind may change these thought patterns and thereby cause a different flow of energy and intelligence toward the objective of its desire." And listen to this is important. "The spirit alone has the power of real self-expression and true volition. This is why we call the conscious part of mind, yours and mine, the spirit of man. And the conscious mind of the universe, the spirit of God. Remember that when you use your subjective mind, you are using the creative power of the universe. For the two are really one. There is but one mind. How many times, or how many of you have looked back at things that have happened in your life, and you were able to see the way all things were connected? That this had to happen so this could happen, and this came first and then that happened. And they impacted one another over time, over years. And they eventually showed up in the now moment. Some of it was done with total consciousness, and some of it may have appeared accidental. Either way, you set the law in motion to create according to your desires and your thoughts and your words. And for a number of those ideas, perhaps most of them, you also implemented them and moved them along through your behaviors and your actions, your human effort as well. We use the creative power of God to manifest things and experiences and situations and all sorts of stuff in our lives all the time. All the time. For much of the past, we may have done it unconsciously, out of habit or routine, or because that's how we learn to do things. But no more. When you create consciously, knowingly, lovingly, with your objective mind, when you start to connect the dots on purpose, well, then you create much more powerfully than ever before. Because you are consciously directing the law of creation, the law of mind. And it has no choice but to say yes to what you choose and focus upon. Set your intention and fill the desire with passion and direction and the energy of you. When you do it with purpose, consciously, you will cause a different flow of energy and intelligence toward the objective of your desire, as Holmes stated. He also said this: we are thinking, willing, knowing, conscious centers of life. We are surrounded by, immersed in, and there is flowing through us a creative something. Call it what you will. The sum total of all our thought, will, purpose, and belief creates a tendency in this law that causes it to react to us according to the sum total of that belief. Ignorance of the law excuses no one from its effects. This is a law that responds with mathematical precision, answering our intentions, conscious or unconscious, according to our beliefs about the matter. Our approach should be direct and it should be specific. Know what you want for yourself. Be clear about it. And if you're not clear, pray for clarity. In fact, in all matters, not only pray for clarity, just pray. God's Spirit is forever flowing into us and expressing through us. Spirit can't help itself. That's just what it does. The very life of God flows freely through you. Every breath, every thought, every idea. God springs forward through you because it must. Just like a stream, as in life, only flows in one direction, right? The stream only flows in one direction. Just as God doesn't create backwards, it only creates forward in one direction. These are both good indications about how we should do it too. So get out of the past. Stop reliving the repeating the stories of all the things that didn't work out, or the mistakes you made back then. Get over it and move forward. Spring forward with energy and vigor, with forgiveness and joy, and always with lots of love. We are creative beings. We can make this whole idea, this process of springing forward or staying in the present moment and moving from this now moment to the next now moment to the next. We can make this all so complicated. But why? Why make it harder on yourself than you need to? Why make it harder on other people, more difficult for them either, to be around you? Think about your whys, W-H-Y. Your motivation behind your words and actions before you implement them, before you speak them, before you do things. And if you find that such behaviors are not really coming from the source of love, that they're not expressing as you being love, then stop it. Release that behavior. Give up those words. Stop using them. And watch the growth and changes that come into your life as a result. Watch the more uplifting and joyous expression that you can be. Watch the rewards of life that will find their way to you if you're ready to receive them and welcome them in. When you follow your true calling, when you listen to divine intelligence, when you push through the concrete cracks and the gates, walk through the gate of your greater self, untold dreams come true. Stuff happens. Please look for all the good, all the God that wants to express through you as the marvelous and wonderful blessing, love, and light that you are to this world and in this world. Do it now. Do it today. Decide to spring forward and become the you that's been held back far too long.